Where'd you put it? There's the question.
Yep, here we go. Yeah.
There we go.
All right, this is something
Changing
near
the
and
South Shore
dear
ridership,
to
yes.
a lot of our hearts. The project that was just asking about, the double tracking and the Westlake expansion.
I don't know if I should announce this on the show. I had reached out to a couple candidates at the election board and said, hey, Bill does this show on Thursday. So I texted one of them and said, where are you? And she responded, we decided to head to Vegas to get married. So,
well, again, I'm going to have to speak to this. As David Letterman said, if you don't sit in this chair, you're not going to get in office. Maybe.
Just so you know, there's a camera behind you.
Yeah,
so just want to remind you. Yeah, you're good.
They already got a good shot of Ken's butt earlier.
I should have flipped the camera over to Callie before I sat in the seat, though. But all right, so we're going to talk about South Shore ridership, and basically the graphic that you see on the screen there will show you that it's at a 10-year low and very quickly approaching a 20-year low. Now, this is at a time when we've already invested over $100 million in the past 3 years, and probably, I think the RDA's invested about $15 million invested, use the term loosely, $15 million in primarily consultant fees toward the future expansion ideas. Now, according to, the Slager-Viskovsky sort of bipartisan regional transformation plan, the South Shore is going to reverse the decline that we are seeing in population in Lake County, Indiana. And opponents of the plan suggest that technology is what is going to move us forward, not, a South Lake Shore extension to Munster, which is 8 miles of track at a cost of about $1 billion. And so I think that, people need to take a close look at these ridership numbers and see that based on changing demographics, change in the way people work, change in where the jobs in Chicago are, and changes in technology, people are choosing other means to get to work. Even though, employment is increasing in Chicago, it was up 2.1% last year, total Chicago employment, according to the NICTY ridership survey. Much of that employment is not within a half mile of the station. And this is one of the problems with train transit, is that it gets you from point A to point B, and they cannot change the route. So we've talked about like bus rapid transit and things like that, which would allow them, so for instance, the Valpo Dash. Okay, if the jobs move from the loop to the west loop, the Chicago Dash can very easily say, that's fine, or the Valpo Dash can very easily say, that's fine, we'll take people to the west loop. But the South Shore can't do that. They can't go anywhere except Millennium Station. And then you have to choose a different option once you get there. And fewer people are willing to do that with Pace Rideshare. We've got the advent of autonomous vehicles coming up with it in the very near future. By 2021, I think Ford says they're going to have autonomous vehicles on the road. So about the time that this extension and all these $2 billion in improvements are done, everyone's going to have autonomous transportation available.
Right. And one thing I'll speak to this personally, my son-in-law, they're moving to Chesterton back from Aurora to be closer to the family. And so you would think Chesterton would be an ideal situation for him to jump on the South Shore. He actually did the research, and I trust him because he used to work for NASDAQ as a forensic specialist. So he found out it was more economical for him to take the Dash, even though he's going to have to drive to Valpo, than to take the South Shore, which I found kind of interesting.
So he will be taking the Dash.
Mm-hmm.
And does he work within a half mile of the Millennium Station? Do you know?
I'm not sure exactly where it works. So wherever the Dash goes is not far.
So, and this is one thing that,
which I think is Union Station. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the other issue. This is one thing for our listeners to understand is, research suggests that public transit has to get you within 1/2 mile of work in order to be a viable option to get to work. And so when you look at 1/2 mile east of Millennium Station, really there's nothing.
No.
The fact that it's, pretty much on Michigan Avenue, and that leaves you Park and Lakefront to the east, gives you all the stuff to the west. Now, if you look at Union Station, there's a big 1/2 mile circle all the way around it. We used to have the Amtrak go into Union Station on a daily basis. That route was cut, and so we're left at this point solely with the option of, if you want to take the train, of going to Millennium Station. And the suggestion was made to revive that Amtrak line, which actually went from Dyer into Union Station so that people would have two options. That was, soundly rejected. But if that were done on a daily basis, people would have different options.
So for those of you who cannot see this graph, what we're looking at is a ridership graph from 1997 to 2017. We start out at 1997 with 3.4 million riders annually. And then we go, there's a spike at 2001, we get up to 3.8 million. Then there's a large spike at year 2005, we get up to 4.2 million, and then we begin a decline. Just to give you some spots between 2012, we're looking at about 3.7 million, and then bringing us to last year, ridership decreased to, I would say, 3.4.
It's back about 3.4.
Yeah, we're about to the original starting point.
It was 3.4 in 2007.
Yeah.
They shut down the Dan Ryan for construction. It spiked up in 2008, 2009.
Right.
Then 2009 it started dropping again. And they were over 4 million. They were at 4.2 million at the peak in 2009. And it dropped off from that point now down to where it is, which is back at 3.4 million, continuing to drop. In addition to the actual ridership dropping, weekday ridership is down more than weekend ridership, and ticket sales are even down more than ridership. They've been doing things like giving away a lot of free tickets.
Teachers.
Children ride free, teachers ride free, anybody's cousin rides free. Bikes count as 2 people. There's all these, fudging the numbers sort of things that they do.
And the thing about it is, we've experienced a decrease in population in Lake County. I don't know what it's been like in LaPorte and St. Joseph County, but there's been definitely a 2% decrease in population. So the thing is, when this is ready, is there going to be the ridership?
Right.
Well,
and more people can work from home now too, because of computers and things like that. You don't have to go into the office that often.
This is a huge point, and this is the issue with the ridership projections. So basically, in order to get the funding for the double tracking and the Westlake extension, they're telling us that, first of all, generically, without doing anything to the line, NICD ridership would go up to about 14,000 per day. Okay, so we're at under 11, right at 11,000 per day now, and they're saying that just over time it's going to go up to 11,000 per day without doing anything, or 14,000. I'm sorry, and then double tracking is going to increase that tremendously. That people are actually going to be riding the South Shore from South Bend to Chicago. It'll be a 90-minute trip on the express train. The other trains will still take 2 hours and 10 minutes. But so they're betting $300 million of our money that people are willing to get up in the morning, drive to the train station, spend 3 hours a day on a train to get to an 8.5 hour a day job. So now you've got at least 12 hours out of your day, right? Because they would rather work in Chicago than in South Bend.
Yeah. So the projections I looked at were was it 1.5 billion for the complete of the Westlake and the double tracking. But the double tracking is to eliminate some bottlenecks between Michigan City and Dunes Park. The question I have is, were there any discussions about the technology being used? Is this going to be the same old electric train that was?
Absolutely. They originally proposed using a hybrid diesel electric. That was scrapped, and they're going to use the same catenary type of electric train. As a matter of fact, they're buying the last that will ever be made
Great.
because
So
nobody else uses it.
so we're buying
Exactly.
old technology to take us into the future.
Right. And the big thing that we need to talk about with as far as the population numbers. So the RDA and NICD are all using the same consultant, which is the guy who said that we're going to have 86,000 jobs at the airport. So there was a time when NERC put out their population predictions. And so just to understand how we have sort of garbage built upon garbage built upon garbage, which seems to be a popular topic. By the way, there's a protest tonight at Steel City Academy regarding the Maya Energy recycling proposal. I would encourage people to get out there at 6 o'clock, I think. So just to show you how we have garbage on top of garbage on top of garbage, NERC put out some population predictions back in 2007, 2008 when they first started doing this. And somehow, he approached me angrily at a meeting for saying this, but I still don't have, any evidence that it's not correct. Within the report, it said, after getting some information from Policy Analytics, we revised our population projections upward. Well, those population predictions are now 10 years old. They haven't come anywhere close to true, but yet they're basing future passenger numbers on population predictions that they have now of our population growing over the next 10 years. And so, our population has remained relatively stable. They're saying that we have a population problem in Lake County. I don't really think that's the case. I have never talked to a citizen, a resident who says, oh my God, you know what the problem is here? People. We don't have enough people, right. We have a distribution of people problem, and I think that results from political corruption and neglect and some things like that. But, as far as population, the population of the county is relatively stable. It's moving south. So if you look at Cherville, they were at 10,000 people like in 1990, and they're at 35,000 or so now. While all 25,000 of those people came from North Lake County, or the majority of them. Probably a few thousand came from Illinois, but the majority of them came from North Lake County. And so why did they leave those areas? They left those areas because of political corruption and different issues like that.
The other thing to layer into here is the transportation-oriented development that TODs that are happening, that they hope will happen in the area, which is another layer of dollars.
Another $700 million, they're saying. Mm-hmm. And so he asked a question about TIFs earlier, and so what they did last year is that Slager pushed through what even local Republicans called a hot pile of garbage bill. Today's show is going to be called Garbage, I guess. But local Republicans, the Munster Town Council, several of its members, called this a hot pile of garbage bill. And so what it does is it authorizes the RDA, an unelected body, to go into cities and towns within a half mile, with up to a mile from the train station. The initial transportation development district will be a half mile, but they can expand it to a mile if they need more money. And they take all of the revenue from the local community and use it for this transit-oriented development. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to go, say, by the East Chicago train station, which is in your district, and they're going to draw a line, a circle around it, and they're going to say, okay, we take all the property taxes, we take all of the income taxes, we take all of the sales taxes, and we take all of the local income taxes, and we're going to use that to build apartment buildings next to the station. Now, when you talk about what that's going to do to your schools and stuff, they're going to do this for 30 years. And so we're bringing in more people, we're taking all of the money away from the locals, and still telling the locals, well, you have to educate the children, you have to provide police and fire protection, you have to do the roads, but we're not giving you any money to do it. And to make matters worse, we have situations like I pointed out almost immediately when they started talking about this, is that so Lear Seating is moving across from the South Shore Station right now as we speak. And so what they are doing is they're combining two locations, the Hammond location and the Portage location. And they're going to bring 1,400 jobs to that one location, which is directly across the street from the South Shore Station. Well, I would bet that the RDA is going to get in there and they are going to grab that, they're going to create that transportation development district before that plant opens. And so all of the income taxes paid by all of those workers who are already paying income taxes locally to the county, to the city, right? They're going to grab those income taxes for 30 years because now it's in a transportation development district, and it all goes to Fesco and his unelected buddies out in Crown Point to do with what they will.
Yeah. It just seems like what is going to happen is very static type thing. We're investing in a train technology that is soon to be outdated. We're going to build apartment complexes around areas that may fluctuate depending on what's available in Chicago for work. Do they get Amazon or don't they get Amazon? I mean, that's going to be a huge gamble, what happens out here in Northwest Indiana. And to put all their eggs in a basket, it seems kind of volatile to me. I mean,
and transient housing, because people usually start out in apartments because they want to get a home someday.
It seems to be working against the American dream.
Well, and this is the situation with a lot of these ideas. I really think that transit-oriented development is a tremendous idea. And guess what? If you open it up to private developers, they'll come in and do it. Why have we stifled transit-oriented development? We had to send people away. I mean, if you look at the area around some of our stations, there's no reason it hasn't been developed for the past 30 years, other than no foresight on the part of our politicians. Right. Get out of the way and let somebody develop the land. But the RDA wants to take all of our money, spend $700 million in order to allegedly prepare these areas for transit-oriented development. Nearly $1 billion. I mean, they say $700 million. You know it's going to be a lot more by the time it's done. And then they're going to offer incentives and everything else to the developers after they do all that.
It just seems to be putting us in a volatile state where we're going to have all these developments and train technology. Would you feel it would be more appropriate to come up with a dynamic transportation method between Chicago and here that can easily change? Busing, autonomous vehicles?
I think it would be more appropriate for our leaders to focus on creating an area that people want to invest in. I mean, I think that actually, you know what we should do? We should go up to Wisconsin one day and live stream from there and look at all the development there, because you know what they did? They got out of the way and said, come in and develop. They're getting Foxconn. People are talking about Amazon HQ too. I mean, they gave away way too much on Foxconn, okay? I'm not in favor of that. But they are growing. Their problem there is they can't grow fast enough. I mean, you've got warehouses and all the things going up like crazy up there. And, if you look at a city like Hammond, I think we're doing a pretty damn good job. I think actually Hammond is doing a pretty good job of development, of reasonable, sustainable development in the city of Hammond. East Chicago has some development going on. They have some great things going on over there. I mean, so we do have some good stuff going on. We need to build on that and not sequester current future income. The problem is people don't know that this is going on. I mean, other than us and a few other people that are talking about it, it's all just painted as some rosy picture. People don't realize that the money for your schools is being taken away for 30 years by some guys in a basement in Crown Point. That's a pretty nefarious plan, in my opinion. There's nothing that is a greater threat to our our representative system of government than having these guys up there with no accountability making all the choices with their tax dollars. Right.
There's absolutely no oversight.
Right.
And, the transparency you've run into with them has been an issue as far as I'm concerned. Asking for documents that they don't produce and you actually have to go downstate.
Among the most mundane requests that I've seen is what the Public Access Council called it. Basically, right. I said, hey, you have a piece of paper right there, Bill? Can I take a look at it? And they said, no, we'll get it to you when we feel like getting it to you. And 30 days later, they still hadn't gotten it to me.
And yet this is a organization that is run by tax dollars. It's a public agency.
It's our document.
And so it should be governed as open door policy as anyone else.
The way it's supposed to work is I'm supposed to be able to walk into their office and say, I want to look at this and this. And if they can put their hands on it right now and show it to you, they're supposed to do it. And there are certain offices that do that. You know, I talk a lot about the election board, and I talk bad about the election board a lot. But I will tell you one thing, if I walk in there and I ask for documents, and they have them readily available, they will give them to me. They will print them. They will pull them up on the printer, and they'll go, okay, it's 8 pages, you owe me 80 cents. That's that. I mean, you know, and that's the way it's supposed to work.
Specifically, well, of course, the RDA is multi-county, but when you're talking about being housed in a county that has transparency problems, you would think that they would.
Well, don't act like Porter County doesn't have transparency problems. You know.
Actually, we're getting close to a 2 hours show.
Yeah, so
we'd be here for 12 hours.
Right,
So,
absolutely. I actually have a meeting with some people about Porter County tomorrow.
I agree, but nonetheless, that has been an issue. We have a lot of these plans being developed by a board that has representation, but when a regular citizen wants to come up and say, hey, what's going on here, there isn't that transparency. You have to go downstate.
Even when State Senator Lonnie Randolph went, they just said, get out of here, we're not listening to you. He asked them why they didn't rebuild Klein Avenue. The guy was practically in tears. Can you give me $10 million? No, we're busy with some other stuff. They intentionally didn't rebuild Klein Avenue because when you look at that graph, you see that when the Dan Ryan was down, South Shore ridership went up. Imagine if they rebuilt Klein Avenue, how much that would drop. Last thing I want to say about transparency on this is our current elected officials. Okay, so the county council has an appointment to the RDA board. The county council, one member of the county council, Christine said, and Commissioner Mike Ripe sit on the NICD board. Okay, it is their duty to ensure that these organizations are accountable and transparent, and nobody is doing it. Okay, so it's time to make some changes and make sure that these boards, even if the downstate sticks us with these unelected boards, we can ensure that they're transparent, that our members on those boards say, no, this isn't right, this is what we have to do. My citizens want this, my residents want that.
So
always end the show on a rant.
I love it.
She starts on our rants, we can end on a rant. Well, with that, we are going to, because this is going to be a huge video file.
That's right.
So we are going to have to close it down. We would like to thank our guests today and for being with us, and we do have to close out the show because we are going to have to get this uploaded. And it appears to be.
And I've got to get my food from SIP before we go.
Yeah. So we thank you, and we wish you a very safe rest of the week and weekend. It should be a great weekend, so get out there and enjoy it.
Thank SIP. We thank Rhonda, Tony, and the staff here at SIP, and we also thank Chester's for the camera.
Yeah, and you know what? We have one thing to do here. We need to play one of our commercials.
Yes.
Oh, you never did that.
We'll do.
Relax, renew, rejuvenate. Let Espa Day Spa and Holistic Center be your destination to revitalize and heal your inner and outer self. Espa, a family-owned and operated European-style boutique spa and holistic center, is located at 2825 Jewett Avenue in downtown Highland, Indiana. They offer individual services, combination packages, and monthly memberships. For a complete list of services offered, go to my-espa.com. To schedule your appointment, call 219-923-3772. Hours vary depending on the season, so be sure to call before stopping in. Gift certificates are available.